County Super Fair, 4-H,
All right, before we get started with our beef show this morning, we want to welcome our judge, Kinsey Freeman. Just a little bit about her. She is originally from Cheyenne, Wyoming. Kinsey grew up on a diversified livestock operation and showed multiple species at local, state, and national levels. She attended and was a member of very competitive judging teams at Casper College and later the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in animal science, and she continued her participation in the UNL judging program by serving as their assistant coach while she completed her master's degree in ruminant nutrition and extension education. She is currently a commodity merchandiser for Hanson Mueller Grain. We want to welcome Kinsey Freeman today as our judge as we get ready to kick off our 2025 Lancaster County Super Fair Beef Show. Entering the ring now, we have our market heifer class. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for market steer class 1. First and second call, market steers class 1. Final call, market steers class 1. Final call, market steers class 1. Well, a really nice set of heifers here to start with. Couldn't have picked a better day for a cattle show in August weather-wise. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be out here
and really start with a nice couple head of cattle. I think as far as these heifers go, I think that there's some differences maybe in type and kind, and where they're at in terms of finish in this stage of the game, but I think they've also got some similarities and some structure that we would critique, but I think it gets kind of close. I'm going to use the red heifer to go ahead and win this division. I think a heifer that probably just opens up with a little bit more mass there through her chest, and I think that allows her to be a little bit bigger, wider topped heifer. Certainly prefer her there out of her hip and pins, and she's got a touch more dimension when you get in behind her. The roan heifer is certainly one that's longer, more extended. She's flatter about her shoulder. I think with that, it maybe works to her disadvantage here in a market class. I don't think she opens up with near as much mass and shape. She is a little bit squarer and fresher right there behind her shoulder. Just need more total dimension to that one, but still some really flashy pieces. Let's give both of these young people a big hand.
Congratulations to Canyon Plugi, your champion market heifer, and Emberlyn Johnson, your reserve champion. Entering the ring next, we will have our market steer class 1. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for market steer class 2. First and second call, market steer class 2. Final call, market steers class 2. Final call, market steers class 2.
Well, we get out here in our lighter class of steers, and obviously they've both got a long ways to go, and Outside of breed, there's a lot of differences in these cattle. I think both of them have just a touch more frame to them. Probably going to take quite a bit of groceries to kind of catch up and finish these cattle out. But I think the difference is here today. The black steer, we're going to go ahead and use him to win just from a sheer muscle standpoint and product. He's the bigger top calf. He's got more dimension as you step in behind him. One thing I'd really like to change on him is structurally, he's just too upright in the angle of his shoulder. He needs to be changed. Now he handles his hip and how his hind leg corresponds there. And certainly some advantages in the Hereford calf there. Structurally, much prefer him. I think one that's just going to take quite a bit of time to catch up when it comes to pounds and performance, but certainly have to appreciate the productive nature of how that one's built. So let's give both those young men a nice hand, and we'll congratulate them as they exit the ring.
All right, Connor will be coming back for our champion market steer drive. And next in the ring, we'll have our market steer class 2. And then after that, we'll have our market steer drive.
Well, another really nice set of steers that we bring out here. I think all different kind of shapes and sizes here. And I think there's one steer that probably wins this class fairly handily for me. It's the red calf here at the end of the line. I think just in terms of market basics, he's the good beef cattle out here. In terms of shape and muscle, he's got some finish to him. He's certainly acting a little ornery for the young lady here today, but I think when you just kind of keep things simple, he's an easy place to go. Would I like to fix him maybe in how he is built there at the point of his shoulder and relax him and maybe tie him in a little tighter there? I think that would blend smoother to his forerib, but I think in this particular class that's getting pretty nitpicky. I think that there's one that follows him in terms of shape and freshness. That's the steer here at the front end of the line. I think when you get down on top of this one, he's really expressive right there behind his shoulder and carries that advantage back. I think he's maybe just not as far along as our class winner. Certainly maybe want to change him and how he's built through his hip. Make him a little longer there. I think a touch more square and attractive in how he's built through his hip and hind leg, and he could certainly find some advantages in this class. Nothing to take away from the shorthorn appearing calf here that's going to round out our class. This one is probably the smoothest in terms of his finish. There's one that maybe just is a touch more devoid of muscle when you get in behind him. Really want to open him up, set him down squarer and truer at the ground, and allow him to offer just a touch more dimension and freshness as we compare him to the two calves ahead of him. Let's give all of these young ladies a big hand.
Congratulations to Hannah Chevalier, your top individual in this class, who will be joined by Connor Pates from the previous class to figure out who our champion market steer will be. Following our champion market steer drive, we will have our supreme market beef animal. So we invite back Canyon Plugi, our champion market heifer, to stand ringside after our market steer drive for that supreme market beef animal drive.
Well, just a couple classes of market steers here make for maybe some extreme differences in weight and kind of where they're at in the ball game, finish-wise. So I think that maybe tells the story as we get out here in our drive of steers. Even though there's only, I think we did 5 head in the steers, I think there's some quality here at the top end as we go select our champion in reserve. So I'm going to keep those two steers out of our last class together for our champion reserve steer. I think just in terms of market basics and keeping them true to having some muscle and performance and finish, those are the easy places to go. So let's give those two young ladies a big hand.
Congratulations to Hannah Chevalier, your champion market steer, and Aislinn Applegarth, your reserve champion. Hannah Chevalier will remain in the ring to represent our champion market steer and will be joined by Kenyon Pluhi, our champion market heifer, to figure out who our supreme market beef animal is at this year's Lancaster County Fair. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for Lancaster County Born and Raised Market. First and second call, Lancaster Born and Raised Market. Final call, Lancaster Born and Raised Market. Final call, Lancaster Born and Raised Market.
Well, we get out here in our Supreme Drive, and like I said, the smaller numbers have maybe made a little bit more contrast here. But I think when you get out here for our Supreme Drive, this is really where the decision needs to be made. I think we've got a really nice market heifer. I like how she balances from the side. She's one that's got plenty of power and dimension when you read her up high, but she progresses with some depth of rib. She's got some finish to her. She's one that maybe compare her to the steer. She gets a little bit frailer in her bone work. And like I said in class, we could certainly relax her in the angle of her shoulder and free her up off of her hind wheels. But in a market class, I think she certainly has the pieces to offer here. The steer, I think, has probably got some advantages when you step in behind him. He's a stouter bone steer that's got just a touch more width there to his pins. I think that allows him to be offer some more dimension there throughout his hip. He's a calf that's got some finish to him. Like I said in class, we could maybe blend him just a little bit smoother there into his forerib. I think that'd level him out down his top line as well. Some really intriguing pieces about both these cattle. I think this is really where it gets close for me. I'm going to go ahead and use the steer to be our supreme, but congratulations to that young man. A really nice market heifer he brings to the ring as well.
Congratulations to Hannah Chevalier, your overall supreme market beef animal, coming from our market steer division. Entering the ring next will be our Lancaster Born and Raised Market. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for senior beef showmanship. First and second call, senior beef showmanship. Final call, senior beef showmanship. Final call, senior beef showmanship.
Well, the morning race deal is always fun for me. I think, you know, the stock show life in a lot of the involvement at the county level seems like a lot of these shows are shrinking, and it seems like there's maybe different priorities, or maybe kids that and families that don't want to put in the time and effort that it takes to raise these things and get them ready for shows. But I think this is extremely impressive to have 5 kids out here that have clearly done a ton of work at home from start to finish and really presented some really nice cattle. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our heifers here. I won't go back through and talk them. We just kind of got done talking them, but I think 2 really extremely nice market heifers that you could take a lot of different places and be fairly competitive. Nothing to take away from the steers that we've got over here to my left, but I think as a total, 5 calves that are really, really nice, and kids that should be super proud of the work they've done at home. So let's give them all a big hand.
Congratulations to Canyon Plugi, your champion Lancaster Born and Raised Market, and your reserve champion goes to Emberlyn Johnson. To conclude our market show, we're going to announce the rate of gain results. Your champion rate of gain is Aislinn Applegarth. Your reserve champion goes to Piper Moorhead. Also receiving purples are Connor Pates and Canyon Plugi. At some point before the conclusion of the show, those four, please stop by the announcer stand to receive your ribbons, banners, and red signs. At this time, we will start our senior beef showmanship. Just a reminder to our audience that our champion senior beef showman will be in our elite showmanship contest tomorrow at 5 p.m. in this arena. They'll be joined by the senior swine showman, senior meat goat, senior sheep, and senior dairy goat showman. Again, elite showmanship is tomorrow at 5 o'clock in this arena. We will do a first call for intermediate beef showmanship. First call, intermediate beef showmanship. Second call, intermediate beef showmanship. Second call, intermediate beef showmanship. Final call, intermediate beef showmanship. Final call, intermediate beef showmanship.
Well, it might be credit to the weather, but these calves are dead broke, it seems like. I really appreciate these kids working and doing the time at home to get out here and be able to have the organization and the presence that they do out here in the ring. I think when it comes to senior showmanship, there's, for me, a little bit more presence and ring awareness. I think you can be leaders in the ring. Especially understanding spacing, how to navigate the ring, because if you do it right, it will allow the rest of the individuals to really follow, and then we have some organization in the ring. So really appreciate the leadership amongst this group to navigate the ring and have some awareness of where they need to be. So I think to me, excuse me, I think to me it comes down to maybe these top three at the front end of the line that maybe just do the extras. To me, in showmanship, I could care less if you've got a smile or look like I'm going to get you kind of deal for intensity out here, as long as you're doing the best that you can and getting the most out of your animals. So I think that the three here at the front of the line do a really, really nice job. I'm going to just talk a little bit about the first three. So a young lady at the front of the line does an awesome job of getting that calf presented. Love the front end that she brings out of that one. One that maybe just gets a little bit more unnatural and intense in her body posture. So I'd like to see her just kind of relax that arm and get just a little bit more natural as she moves around the ring. But an excellent job. That one is never out of place. Young man that's in the second hole, I think one that does a really nice job of getting that calf to lead, especially when she wanted to be a little naughtier here at the beginning. So he's really stayed calm and had some patience with her, and as the drive has gone on, he's brought the most out of her, I believe, from the profile. Young lady here that sits in our third hole, done a really good job of getting that calf presented. I thought she was super natural and collected as she came into the ring. That calf maybe just got a little too far stretched at the beginning, but she had the awareness to correct that and get the most out of that heifer, not only when we had her from the rear view, but now when we bring her out to the profile. So nothing to take away from the kids that we have here at the back end of the line, just some of those pieces that I look at that these young individuals here at the front end did a really nice job of. I'll go shake the hand of your champion in reserve, but let's give all of our seniors a big hand.
Congratulations to TJ Mueller, your champion senior beef showman. Again, he'll be representing the beef species at our elite showmanship contest tomorrow at 5 p.m. And your reserve champion goes to Emberlyn Johnson. TJ will also be coming back later in the program for our overall showman following our Clover Kids showmanship. He'll be joined by our champion intermediate and junior showman. Let's give another round of applause to our senior beef showman. All right, next in the ring, we're going to have our intermediate beef showmanship. And we'll go ahead and do a first call for our junior beef showmanship. First call, junior beef showmanship. Second call, junior showmanship. Second call, junior beef showmanship. Final call, junior beef showmanship. Final call, junior beef showmanship.
There's a lot of judges out there that'll tell you showmanship is not their favorite thing to judge because a lot of it is personal preference. But I love judging showmanship, and not because it's personal preference, but because that's when I get to interact the most with these kids, and that's what's fun to me. I think all of these individuals in our intermediate division did a really nice job. Went through and gave each of them some pointers of some things that they could work on. Don't want to overload it and be a coach out here, but if I can let them take one thing away from the ring to work on, the rest will come and they'll be hungry to learn more. So I'm going to give these three on the front side here purple ribbons, and we'll have blues on the back. Nothing to take away from our blues. They did an excellent job. Again, a really calm and collected show ring, which says a lot about the kids here in Lancaster County and the work that they've done at home. So very, very impressive there. I think these three individuals that are going to be our purple winners, I think just do a step further in providing some show ring presence, getting the best look out of their animal. Went through and just talked about some different things that they might be able to accentuate on the show stick. But if we could give all of our intermediates a big hand, I'll go select your champion in reserve.
Congratulations to Canyon Plugi, your champion intermediate beef showman, and Blake Mueller, is your reserve champion. Canyon will be coming back for our overall showman following our Clover Kid showmanship. Next in the ring is our junior beef showmanship class. We also invite any Clover kids in the audience that would like to show an animal in the ring to find a 4-H'er and their calf and be ready to join us for our Clover Kid showmanship after junior showmanship. So any Clover kids that think that they want to show a calf, make sure you find a 4-H'er and come ringside and we'll get you ready to go. One last reminder that Clover Kids Showmanship will be after Junior Showmanship concludes, which is currently going on in the ring.
Well, this is when my job actually starts to get a little tougher. So really impressive set of junior showmen. Little birdie told me that there's a couple of first timers out here. And I think what the coolest part of that is, I don't know which two it is. I couldn't tell you. So I think really fun to see how much time and effort that these kids have put in to get these calves ready and presented. I know it's taken a ton of practice at home. All of them are going to get purples out here. Very impressive set. I'm going to go select your champion in reserve, but let's give these kids a big hand.
Congratulations to Alyssa Bruce, your champion junior showman, and Maddox Bruce is your reserve champ. As they exit the ring, we'll do our Clover Kid showmanship if we have some entries. After that, we have our overall showman drive. So we invite back TJ, our senior showmanship champion, Canyon, our intermediate, and Alyssa, our junior, to compete for that overall showman drive after Clover Kid showmanship.
Well, if this isn't the definition of fun on a Saturday in August, I don't know what is. Really fun to work with the Clover kids and work through all of showmanship. Wyatt and Avery are out here doing a bang-up job with these calves. And these calves are definitely figuring it out alongside them, so they haven't figured out how to be show calves, but I have faith that these two are going to get them trained right. So let's give our Clover kids a big hand and all of our showmanship exhibitors a big hand.
Wonderful job to our Clover Kids showmen. As they exit the ring, we will be doing our overall showmanship drive, where we bring back our champion senior, intermediate, and junior to compete for the traveling trophy. After our showmanship portion of our program, we'll move into our feeder portion of our program. So we'll go ahead and do a first call for British Cross feeder heifers. First call, British Cross feeder heifers. We have a quick modification to our program after our overall showmanship drive currently happening now. We will have a Pee-wee showmanship. So that will be just a quick little walk around the ring with our Pee-wee showman after our overall showman. We'll do a second call, British Cross feeder heifers. Second call, British Cross feeder heifers.
Well, this is really impressive. I think all three divisions are in contention out here. Our senior showman, I really like his intensity. He keeps that calf set up really nicely. as far as how she's put together through her front end especially. Really like his presence in the ring. Probably our steadiest and most natural showman comes to us from the intermediate division. Really like his ring presence. He's one that never really lets anything get to him. This heifer is maybe not wanting to get around as much or as well here in our Supreme Drive, but he's really remained patient with her and tried to get the best look out of her. Probably the showman that gives me the most ideal look consistently comes out of our junior division. I think this young lady has got a ton of future to her. I especially appreciated how smart she is already as she navigates the ring. That red heifer really wasn't wanting to get around, and she remained patient and tried to give herself the space to give a good look at that calf. So really impressed with all of these individuals. It's been an exciting showmanship division. I'm going to go ahead and use our senior to be the supreme, but give all of these young people a big hand.
Congratulations to TJ Mueller, your overall showman for the 2025 Lancaster County Beef Show. As they exit the ring, we're going to have a quick pee-wee showmanship. And then following that, we move into our feeder portion of our show. We'll go ahead and do a final call for British Cross feeder heifers. Final call, British Cross feeder heifers. And let's give a round of applause for our Pee Wee Showman. We think that's the future of the beef industry right there, and we're pretty excited to see that here at the Lancaster County Fair. And we've got lots of great up-and-coming and current 4-H'ers here at the Beef Show. We're going to move on to our British Cross feeder heifer class. As they enter the ring, we'll do a first and second call for exotic cross feeder heifers. First call, exotic cross feeder heifers. Final call, exotic cross feeder heifers. Final call, exotic cross feeder heifers.
Well, we get out here in our first class of feeder heifers, and I think there's some differences to talk amongst them, clearly at different stages here. I'm going to leave them lined up in order that they are here. I'm going to use the white calf to go ahead and win this class. I think when you read her, she's just the most opened up and robust in her rib shape there. I think that allows her to stand with the most width up high. She's square out of her pins and offers some dimension when you get in behind her. I prefer her on the move as far as how she's built to her shoulder. I don't know that she's perfect there, but I certainly think she has advantages as you get her out on the go compared to the two heifers that are directly behind her. I think just a heifer that's got a bit more future to her. The red heifer that comes in second, this one is easily the most dimensional as you get behind her. She's got the most width, especially down in her lower hip. I think a heifer that reads with some depth of rib. I just want to open her up there in her forerib, lay her back in the angle of her shoulder, and you could certainly just stouten her up there at the ground. But I think the heifer that's got some doability to her, I think one that's going to offer some advantages, especially in terms of frame size, as we compare her to the heifer that's going to come in third. This heifer's certainly got some advantages in terms of length and extension up front compared to the heifer directly ahead of her. She's long and level in her top line. This is the heifer when you get in behind her, just want to open her up in her body. She needs to be stouter as you step in there to her hooks and pins. I think that allow her to offer some more dimension throughout. The heifer that rounds out our class, I think, certainly at a size disadvantage today. She's one that I want to relax in her angle of her shoulder, just give her a touch more flex out of her rear too. I think that'll allow her to get the fundamentals right as she gets some more groceries in her. So let's give all of those young people a nice hand.
Congratulations to Aislinn Applegarth, your champion British feeder heifer, and Derek Bruce, your reserve champion. Entering the ring next, we have our exotic feeder heifers. And we'll go ahead and do a first and second call for exotic cross feeder steers. First and second call, exotic cross feeder steers. Final call, exotic cross feeder steers. Final call, exotic cross feeder steers.
Well, another really nice set of heifers here. I think there's maybe a pair of them at the front end that offer just a little bit of give and take. I'm going to leave them lined up the way they are. The young man that's going to start our class, he's got a heifer that I think just excels the class in true dimension. I think she's one that's fuller and bolder right there in her forerib, and then just progresses back with that width. I really like how she gets out and moves around the ring. She's maybe not wanting to give us the best look out of her hip there, but that's certainly where I prefer her over the heifer that's going to come in our second hole. I think one that's just got a ton of future to her. The heifer that comes in our second hole, young man does an awesome job of getting that one presented, especially right there through her front end. She's just very long and extended, shoots her neck out of the top side of her shoulder there, long and level topped. She's certainly maybe got a dimension advantage at the ground. This is a heifer that maybe just gets a little shorter in the way she's built through her hip. Want to lengthen her out there, give her a touch more flex to her hock, but certainly has some advantages when it comes to look and maybe just a little bit more fleshy appearance than the two heifers that follow her. I think just a little bit more time with her is going to do her a lot of good. She maybe is just a little bit more moderate in her frame size as well as we compare her to these other calves. The calf that comes out in our third hole, really like the depth of body that this one offers. She's really good there in her midrib. I just want to open her up there in her forerib. She gets a little bit bolder and more opened up there through her shoulder. This one's going to be really expressive in the shape that she offers throughout. Another one that maybe we just want to fix her and how she's built there through her hips. She certainly gets a little bit sharp and steep there at her pins. The heifer that rounds out our class, another one that's really shapely. She's very impressive when you get in behind her. She's maybe got the most dimension there through her hip. I think that we maybe just need to fix her and how she's built there through her forerib. Really want to open her up in her body. It's going to maybe take a little bit more attentiveness to get this one finished. She certainly gets just a little coarser in how she's built, but a really nice set of heifers. Let's give them all a big hand.
Congratulations to Maddox Bruce, your champion exotic feeder heifer, and Hudson Reimers, your reserve champion. Entering the ring next, we have our exotic cross feeder steers. Following that, we will have our supreme champion feeder calf drive. So we invite back our champion British feeder heifer, exotic feeder heifer, and exotic feeder steer for that supreme champion feeder calf drive. Again, that is after our exotic cross feeder steer class, which will be entering the ring now. Again, after our exotic feeder steer class, we're going to have our supreme champion feeder calf. So our champion British feeder heifer and our champion exotic feeder heifer, please make sure you are ringside following this class for that supreme champion feeder calf drive.
Well, these calves are figuring out how to be show steers, and the young people are doing a good job of remaining patient. I told the young lady she held on way longer than I probably would have, so that was pretty impressive, and she did it with a smile on her face the whole time. So as long as we're having fun out here, that's the most important part. I think when we start talking the cattle, the white calf is probably an easy place to go. I think he's just got some quick pieces when it comes to market fundamentals. It's a big-bodied steer that's got some dimension when you get in behind him. I think he's truer maybe at the top side of his hip. Got some squareness and width to his pins there. He's maybe one that gets just a little bit shorter in how he's made. Would certainly like to lengthen him out there and lay him back and clean him up in his shoulder at this stage of the game. But I think when you just kind of stick to the basics, he's an easy place to start. Certainly some advantages when it comes to length and extension sit in our second hole. The black steer is certainly longer and more extended. I prefer how he's built there at the top side of his shoulder, long, level topped one. Just when you get down to it, this guy's going to take a lot more groceries to get there in this class. I think one that needs to be opened up in his body, and that's going to lay the foundation for some more dimension to lay down on him. The calf that comes in our third hole, I think one that's probably just a touch more expressive and shapely than the steer right ahead of him at this stage of the game. I just want to fix maybe how he's built structurally. Want to lay him back in the angle of his shoulder. Gets a little bit straight and upright in how he's built through his hip and hind leg, but still a calf that's certainly going to offer some muscle. Let's give all of these individuals a big hand.
Congratulations to Hudson Reimers, your champion exotic feeder steer, and Emberlyn Johnson, your reserve champion. As we get ready to exit the ring, we will have our supreme champion feeder calf drive. where we invite back our champion British feeder heifer and champion exotic feeder heifer to join our champion exotic feeder steer to determine who our supreme champion feeder calf will be. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for Angus heifers, January, February 25. First and second call, Angus heifer, January, February 25. Final call, Angus heifer, January, February 25. Final call, Angus heifer, January, February 25. Well, we get out here in our feeder calf drive, and I think three really nice individuals, three totally different types and kinds, but I think all together we've got some really nice advantages and things to talk about. The British heifer, I think one that if you just study her pieces, I really like the body in her. I think she's got plenty of dimension for what she's bringing to the table. Like I mentioned in class, she gets maybe just a little bit frailer in her bone work. Maybe want to lay her back in the angle of her shoulder just a touch. I think the biggest difference when you get out her out here amongst these other two, she probably just gives up a little bit of muscle and dimension, especially as you get in behind her, and that's possibly just a little bit more of a breed disadvantage as we get out here talking about our exotic heifer and steer. The black heifer, one that I really like the look that the young man gives me. She's just so long and extended. I like how she progresses with plenty of depth back there through a rear rib and flank. Heifer that really puts together a nice picture. Structurally, she's probably the one that I prefer out here as well. I think that if you compare her to the steer that comes right behind her, she maybe just gets just a little bit flatter. She doesn't have the same bone and dimension at the ground, but a lot of intriguing pieces, especially from maybe a breeding perspective. That's certainly one that could offer some breeding pieces. The steer that comes next, I think one, when you talk about foot and bone size, one that's got lots of dimension and width up high, especially as he progresses to his pins. I don't know that he's as genuine as we read him at the base of his hip, but I think one that's got a tremendous amount of body. He's probably getting a little better look out of him as he's calmed down and got out here for the grand drive of the feeder calves, and I think that allows his front end to kind of come together a little bit better. Certainly just a bolder, wider shouldered one, but I think that reads true to the dimension that he's offering behind it. Really impressive set of calves here. I'm going to go ahead and use our steer to be our champion feeder calf and the exotic heifer to be reserved. Congratulations to Hudson Reimers, your champion supreme feeder calf at this year's Lancaster County Beef Show. We're going to move into the next portion of our program with our Angus heifer January-February class. Once they enter the ring, we'll go ahead and do a first and second call for Charlet heifer March-April 24. First and second call, Charlet heifer March-April 24. Final call, Charlet heifer, March-April 24. Final call, Charlet heifer, March-April 24.
Well, a nice single entry Angus calf here. One that's really impressive in terms of her rib, especially there in her midrib. You maybe want to match that expansiveness with just a shot more there right behind her shoulder. I think that'll come with time. I don't think she's devoid of forerib. I think it's just needs to grow into her and how she's built there through her shoulder. One that's really refined about her head and neck. She does open up just a touch more in her shoulder, but like I said, I think if she gets a touch more forerib in her, that'll really balance out. I think a heifer that you get her on the move, for as much power as she has for an Angus female, I think she's plenty functional in her skeleton. She maybe just wants to get a little bit more tight there in how she handles her spine on the go, but certainly a functional heifer in her own right. So let's go ahead and give that young man a nice little round of applause.
Congratulations to Blake Mueller, your champion Angus heifer. Moving into the Charlets, we've got our Charlet heifer March-April 24 entering the ring. We'll do a first, second, and final call because he looks like he's standby for Charlet heifer September-October 24.
Well, another nice single entry heifer here, one that's super rugged and still refined and feminine in how she handles her foot and bone. I think one that's got a ton of stoutness there. And then from the ground up, I think she just gets better. Super maternal in her look from the profile, one that progresses with some depth. And I think that she's still plenty fresh, in her condition. I really appreciate how true she's coming at us today. I think the young man does a really nice job of getting a good look at her from a profile. I think if we're going to criticize this one, especially for being a Charlet and having all that mass at the ground, as you watch her go away, I'd like her to just set down wider and truer there. She maybe wants to get a little bit close there when she steps, but a really nice female that the young man's showing. Let's give him a big hand.
Entering the ring next, we have our Charlet heifer, September-October 24. We'll be joined by our previous Charlet after this for our champion Charlet drive.
Well, another really nice heifer. I think one that's long and extended. I gotta appreciate the fact that she comes in a really genuine package. I like how fresh she is in her condition. She's one that if you study her on the move, she's correct in her angles. Maybe going away from you, similar to the heifer we saw in our last class. Just want to square her up and true her up at the ground, going away from me. But a heifer that's certainly got some dimension and really like the condition that she's presented today. So let's give this young man a nice hand.
At this time, we'll be doing our champion Charlet drive from our previous two classes.
Well, we get out here in our drive of Charlets, and like I said in class, these two heifers are really nice females. They're both maternal. They're both going to offer plenty of future as cows for these young men. I think the heifer, the bigger heifer, is one that I prefer just in terms of her added length and extension. The heifer that comes as a reserve maybe just doesn't have that added femininity up front. She gets a little bit more aggressive in her tail head and maybe want to lay her down and smooth her out there. But two really, really nice females. Let's give these young men a nice hand.
Congratulations to Blake Mueller, your champion Charlet, and Micah Mueller, your reserve champion. We want to remind everybody, if you need a late morning snack, we've got the 4-H Clover Cafe in Ag Society Hall and the Horseshoe Cafe in the Freight Star Pavilion. All the proceeds from the 4-H Clover Cafe go to support our local Lancaster County 4-H youth in local, state, and national competition, activity and camp scholarships, and other local funding and programming here in Lancaster County. They've got everything from walking tacos to coffee to Rice Krispies and even more. So if you're craving a pickle or some nachos, head on over to the 4-H Clover Cafe and support our local Lancaster County 4-H youth. You can find the full menu in the back of your program. Entering the ring now, we have our Hereford heifer, September-October 24. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for Maine and Jew heifer, January, February 24. First and second call, Maine and Jew heifer, January, February 24.
Well, we've got a functional female here that's sound enough, structured, one that's got some body to her. I think one that maybe you get in behind her and you might want to stouten her up. There in her pin set, give her a shot more bone and footwork, but certainly the functionality's there. She's going to make a nice cow for the young man. Let's give him a big hand.
Congratulations to Caleb Wood, your champion Hereford heifer at this year's beef show. Entering the ring next, we have our Maine and Jew, January, February 24 single entry. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for Maine and Jew heifer, January, February 25. First and second call, Maine and Jew heifer, January, February 25. Also, another reminder for the 4-Hers and even some parents that might be ringside, we have our annual livestock judging clinic and contest tomorrow from noon to 2 o'clock in the arena. You do not have to have any prior experience in livestock judging, and there are no reasons. So if there's any 4-Hers that are intimidated by reasons, it's still good practice. This is still a great time for you to practice your placing and even learn something new about maybe a species that you need a little bit of extra support in. Be sure to sign up as a team or even an individual at the 4-H livestock office before the contest, which is again tomorrow from noon to 2 o'clock. It's a great opportunity to learn and improve on your livestock judging skills.
Well, another really nice single entry, one that's pretty dang close to being a really nice fixture for this young lady in a herd. I think a heifer that's got a tremendous amount of balance. I think all of her pieces fit on the profile. She progresses with a ton of width and dimension as you get in behind her. She's a heifer that's maybe pushing just a little bit more condition, which probably helps her blend just so smoothly. I guess what's most impressive to me is this young lady gets her out on the move. I love the extra bounce and cushion that she has there and set to her hind leg and pastern. I think one that's going to be a tremendous female for the young lady. Let's give her a big hand.
Entering the ring next, we have our Maine and Jew heifer, January, February 25. After that, we'll have our Maine and Jew championship drive.
Well, we've got a younger mane here. I think a heifer that if you study her pieces, she's one that's long and level in her top line, super refined about her head and neck. I guess with that, I expected her to maybe be a little bit more disappointing when I got in behind her, but she's one that's still got some muscle and dimension as you step in from behind. I think a heifer that maybe is just a little bit more deceiving in how she's built at the ground. Certainly could stouten her up there. She gets a little bit more prominent in her navel there. I think if we fix that in her, one that's got a ton of look as you really study her. You get them both out here, and I think that there's some pieces to talk. They're obviously very different amongst their breed, but you've got one that's maybe a little bit more refined and feminine. She's definitely coming at you truer in terms of her condition, one that's still got a lot of time to progress. But then we've got one, a heifer that I think skeletally got a lot of good pieces, a lot of advantages. Maybe want to just freshen her up as you look at her from a condition standpoint. Still a really impressive female. Our big heifer is going to go ahead and be our champion, and the young man will be reserved. Let's give him a big hand.
Congratulations to Emberlyn Johnson, your champion, Main and Jew, and TJ Mueller, your reserve champion. Entering the ring next, we have our Red Angus, January-February 24. Go ahead and do a first and second call for Red Angus, May-June 24. First and second call, Red Angus, May-June 24.
Well, a nice way to kick off our Red Angus show. I think a heifer that's got a ton of body and volume there, which allows her to just progress with so much width out there through her pins. I think a heifer's that's got tons of dimension to her as well. I like the feature that she offers at the ground. I think with that added dimension, she maybe gets just a little bit plainer in the way she's built. I don't think she's got as many out there pieces, I guess. When you study her on the profile, she wants to get a bit rounder and more common there in her hip and hind leg, but still plenty functional. A really good structured heifer. Be excited to see her as she comes back out with her contemporaries here. Let's give that young man a nice hand.
Entering the ring next will be our Red Angus, May-June 24. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for Red Angus, March-April 25. First and second call, Red Angus, March-April 25.
think another heifer that's super functional in her build. She looks like a kind of easy keeping type of female. I think with that she's got a little added condition to her, especially right there behind her tailhead and maybe how she's laying it down into her chest. I think we freshen her up just a little bit. She might proportion a little bit better back there through her rear rib and flank. Still like the structure of that one in terms of functionality. Let's give that young man a nice hand.
In the ring next will be our Red Angus March April 25. Following this, we will invite back our other two Red Angus entries for our champion Red Angus Drive. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for Shorthorn Heifers, March, April 24. First and second call, Shorthorn Heifers, March, April 24.
Well, young man showing a heifer that just hasn't quite figured out that she's going to have a lot more days of this. This heifer is a tremendous prospect. I think one that's got a lot of intriguing pieces, especially as we compare her to some of the others that we've seen. I think if she kind of gets this game figured out, she's one that's really unique in how she ties her neck and shoulder in, and then still so expansive and impressive there in her rib. I think at this stage, typically, we see calves that have got a little bit further to go when you study them in their forerib and how they put all those pieces together. She's kind of already got it figured out. I think a calf that's still got plenty of shape and dimension as you study her. You know, she's being difficult and not wanting to move for us, but I think if you really read her angles, she's one that's going to be really good in terms of her structure, especially out of her hip and hind leg there. I like the added set that she's got there. Really fun one to show once she gets it figured out. So congratulations to that young man. Let's give him a big hand.
We'll now have our champion Red Angus Drive with the previous two class entries. And we'll do a final call for Shorthorn Heifers, March, April 24. Final call, Shorthorn Heifers, March, April 24.
Well, we get out here for our Red Angus Drive, and I think that there's some things to talk about, primarily with our heifers on either end here out of our first and last class. I think the big heifer, it's always impressive the amount of time and effort it takes to get a big heifer ready for shows and to keep them together in terms of condition and the pieces that they present and kind of keep those things going. I think that this young man has done a tremendous job of getting this one ready and keeping her in shape. I think a heifer that's got a lot of rib and body, she's super dimensional, especially as you step in behind her. And like I said in class, super good when you study her at the ground as well. She maybe doesn't have as intriguing pieces when it comes to some femininity up front, or maybe how she pieces her hip together up high. But I think all of her pieces proportion plenty well. She's got some balance to her. I think the heifer that maybe offers those intriguing pieces and out there pieces when it comes to look is our heifer calf. One that's really long and extended. I like how she pieces her shoulder together. She's maybe just wanting to act like a calf out here. But I think if you really study how she's built in her angle and her hip, her shoulder and her hip, and then piece that together with the amount of rib and body that she's showing at this age, I think one that's really impressive and got a ton of future. I think it gets close there. I'm going to go ahead and use the heifer calf to win this division, and our big heifer will be reserved.
Congratulations to Kyler Kluge, with his heifer calf for the champion Red Angus and his January-February 24 for his reserve champion. We're moving on to the shorthorn portion of our program with our March-April 24 about to enter the ring. And we'll do a first and second call for shorthorn heifer, May-June 24. First and second call, shorthorn heifer, May-June 24. Final call, shorthorn heifer, May-June 24. Final call, shorthorn heifer, May-June 24.
Well, I think a fun pair to evaluate. This is what makes judging shows a lot of fun for me because there is a little bit of give and take and challenge to this pair of heifers in our big shorthorn class. Both of them are gonna get purples, and I think that they're both really deserving of being out here, and I think could have a lot of future as cow pieces for these young ladies. I'm going to describe the differences that I see before I tell you how I like them. The red heifer, I think one that you really like in terms of a rib and body. She's got some dimension when you study her up high. I like her as you study her on the go. I think she's got just a touch more cushion and flexibility as you study her off of both ends of her skeleton. She's pushing maybe just a little bit more condition, and I think that helps her balance out a little better there through her rear rib and flank. If you get in behind this heifer, I expected her to have just a touch more dimension based on the pieces that she offers in her front 2/3. I think a heifer maybe that we could stouten her up in her pin set just to match the added dimension that she's got everywhere else, maybe freshen her up in her condition. That's the advantage that the roan heifer has on the backside of her. I think one that reads truer and more genuine in the rib and body that she offers. You actually get in behind her, she's square and more opened up in her hooks. I think a heifer maybe that is at a little bit of a disadvantage in how she's built to her hind leg. You could certainly see her flex with just a touch more attractiveness as she's moving, but certainly functional enough in her skeleton. She's got the added pieces of balance and femininity versus that red heifer. So two really nice females that are going to be some nice breeding pieces. I'm going to use the roan heifer to win this class, and the red heifer will be second, but let's give these two young ladies a nice hand.
Moving on next, we have our shorthorn heifer, May June 24, single entry. And we'll go ahead and do a first and second call for shorthorn heifer, March, April 25. First and second call for shorthorn heifer, March, April 25.
Well, young lady has a really nice single entry here. I think a heifer that's super square and level in the way she's presented. Got a ton of feature at the ground. I think something maybe that unique that she's going to infuse. Shorthorns aren't always the most powerful and stoutest when you get in behind them, but this heifer certainly has some advantages there, brings some unique breeding pieces to the table. I think with that additional power, she gets just a little bit coarser and plainer there about her shoulder. You maybe want to blend her up there a little smoother, add some more femininity to her there through her front 1/3, but still all of her pieces match. And like I said, I think she's got some really intriguing breeding pieces. Let's give that young lady a nice hand.
Nice job to Hannah Chevalier with her May-June 24 Shorthorn heifer. Next in the ring, we have our Shorthorn heifer, March-April 25. After the single entry, we will do our championship Shorthorn drive and then move on to our Simmentals.
Well, a nice single entry calf out here in our Shorthorns. I think a heifer that's got some performance. She's got some size and length to her. She's really refined about her head and neck. I think one thing for me is how she's built at the ground. I think one that's probably always going to be just a touch more refined in her foot and bone work could stouten her up there. But I think this heifer is just going to take some time to get there with some feed, and I think she's going to come along and really fill out that added frame that she's got. So let's give that young lady a nice hand.
At this time, we'll be doing our Shorthorn Championship Drive, where we invite back the previous entries from the two classes. And then we'll move on to the Simmental portion of our program. So we'll go ahead and do a first and second call for Simmental heifer January, February 24. First and second call, Simmental heifer January, February 24. Final call, Simmental heifer, January, February 24. Final call, Sim heifer, January, February 24.
Well, I think a fun division here in our Shorthorns. I think it comes down to the two bigger heifers out here for me. The roan heifer is probably just a little bit smoother package. I think she's smoother in her bone work. I think she's got a touch more femininity as you blend her into her shoulder, and I think maybe a little bit of that. She's got some advantages in terms of her color and how that kind of camouflages it, but I think a heifer that's still got plenty of balance to her. And then you step in behind her, and I think she's super genuine in how she comes out of the top side of her hip. I think a heifer that maybe gives up a touch more power as you study the heifer that came out of our second class, one that's just really big and opened up in her rib. I think that lays the foundation for a touch more added dimension. We talked about her infusing in a little bit more power and having some unique breeding pieces for the breed there. I think with that, she gets a little coarser in how she's built to her shoulder and neck, maybe gets a little coarser in her joint work as we compare her to the roan heifer. So a very close decision here for me. I'm going to go ahead and use the roan heifer to be our champion Shorthorn. We'll use the red heifer to be reserved. Let's give all of these young people a nice hand.
Congratulations to Amelia Johnson, your champion Shorthorn heifer, and Hannah Chevalier, your reserve champion. At this time, we'll move on to the Simmentals. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for Sim heifer, March, April 24. First and second call, Sim heifer, March, April 24.
Well, we won't keep this heifer away from her friends for too much longer. Young man's doing an awesome job getting her around the ring. I think a heifer that's got plenty of power and dimension, you get in behind her, she definitely reads true to the Simmental breed and certainly has the dimension there through her hip. She progresses with depth back there through her rear rib and flank. I think a heifer that maybe just gets a little bit too soft on her pasterns could blend her just a touch smoother there right behind her shoulder, but a really nice female that's got plenty of good pieces. Let's give that young man a nice hand.
Nice job to Maddox Bruce. And we are going to be moving on to our Seminole heifer, March, April 24, as he exits the ring. Entering now, we have our Seminole heifer, March, April 24. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for Seminole heifer, September, October 24. First and second call, Sem heifer, September, October 24. Final call, Seminole heifer, September, October 24. Final call, Sem heifer, September, October 24.
We've got another heifer out here that's got some power to her. Can certainly appreciate the body that she brings to the table. I think a heifer that maybe just reads a little bit plainer in the way she's built. Want to pick her up in her chest. Wonder how to touch smoother there through her tail head, but some really nice pieces that she's got to offer the young man as far as a breeding piece. So you want to give him a big hand.
Entering the ring now, we have our Seminole heifer, September, October 24. Following the single entry, we will do our Seminole drive. So we invite back the previous two purples to join in for our Seminole drive.
Well, a nice single entry here that the young lady's showing. She does a tremendous job getting them stuck. This heifer's maybe just want to be a track star out here, but I think that she's got some intriguing pieces. One that's super long and extended. She's very proud there through her front 1/3. Like how she ties her neck in really high at the top side of her shoulder. She maybe gets just a little easier right there behind her shoulder and how she transitions back to her top line. But I think that she gets really expansive as you read her through her forerib and on back. A heifer that's got plenty of power. You study her on the move. She maybe wants to get a little tighter and more rigid off those hind wheels. We could fix her there. I think that this one's got an incredible future ahead of her, and she's still got some really intriguing pieces. Let's give that young lady a nice hand.
At this time, we'll have our champion Skeletal drive, and we'll go ahead and do a first and second call for all other breeds, heifer January, February 24. First and second call, AOB, heifer January, February 24. Well, again, three really nice females here in our Simmental drive. I think it probably comes down to our heifer out of the first class and our heifer out of the last class. And I've been saying all day with the smaller numbers, there's been quite a bit of variability in terms of type and kind. But I think these two heifers as representatives are probably the most alike than they are different. I think both of them, maybe where we want to fix them is how they blend right there behind their shoulder. Want to strengthen them right there in their top line. I think the biggest differences are, for me though, the bigger heifer is probably just a little bit truer there in how she's built through her hip. I think she sets down with a touch more flex there through her rear leg. She maybe even gets a little too soft there in her pastern, but certainly a very functional female. The heifer that comes out of our last class, love the length and extension that she offers. Young lady does a tremendous job of getting her stuck. I love the expansion that she offers from her forerib back. She maybe just doesn't handle her hip and hind leg as attractively on the move, wants to get just a touch tighter there. I'm going to go ahead and use the big heifer to be our champion, and then the young heifer will be our reserve. But let's give all these individuals a big hand. Congratulations to Maddox Bruce, your champion Simmental, and Alyssa Bruce is your reserve champion. Next to the ring will be our AOB heifer, January, February 24. Just a quick addition to your show program. After our exotic commercial heifer, we will have our Supreme Breeding Heifer Drive. So we invite back all the champion breeding heifers for that Supreme Breeding Heifer Drive. Again, that is after the exotic commercial on the current page we are on. Entering the ring now, we have our AOB heifer, January, February 24. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for exotic commercial, January, February 24. Again, after that exotic commercial class, we'll have our Supreme Breeding Heifer Drive. So if you are a champion breeding heifer, I would suggest you get ringside sooner than later. Final call, exotic commercial, January, February 24. Final call, exotic commercial, January, February 24. And we'll do a first call for that Supreme Breeding Heifer Drive. First call, all champion breeding heifers.
Well, I think a really, really nice heifer that we've got out here that certainly could withstand some more competition. A heifer from the profile is one of the more intriguing ones that we've seen today. Love how she blends there through her front 1/3. Really attractive in the angle to her shoulder. That maybe leads us to the only place where I would really kind of nitpick her. We could open her up there in her forerib just a touch. I think her color helps her a little bit there from the profile. I really am impressed with this female as we get her on the move. Just love her angles and her functionality on the go. Be excited to see her come back and withstand some more competition.
Also, a quick announcement for that Supreme Breeding Heifer Drive. We will be going 5 deep in that, so we do need the reserves to also report ringside. That is, again, after the single entry class that is in the ring right now. So all champion and reserve champion breeding heifers need to make their way to the arena at this time.
Well, again, another really impressive female. I think this one is a heck of a cow prospect for the young man. Really love how she's built there at the top of her neck and blends that down into her shoulder. Very extended female that still opens up with a lot of power and dimension when you get in behind her, and still super attractive as you get her on the go. The only place I'd nitpick her is we could probably freshen her up a little bit in her condition. She's wanting to push out in her chest. And I think that would allow her to progress with just a little bit more balance down low as you read her through her rear rib and flank, because she's super good bodied. If we could just clean her up in her chest floor just a touch. Let's give that young man a nice hand.
Congratulations to TJ Mueller, your champion exotic commercial. At this time, we invite the champion breeding heifers to enter the arena. Reserve champions of each species will be on deck ringside to fill in if the champion is selected for the top 5 in the Supreme Breeding Heifer Drive. At this time, we have our Supreme Breeding Heifer Drive in the ring. We will go 5 deep, but we're going to go ahead and do a first call for Lancaster born and raised breeding. First call, Lancaster born and raised breeding.
Well, as we get out here for our Supreme Drive and the female show, I think it tells the story of how our day has gone. I know we still have the bred known, but just a really impressive group of cattle and a really impressive group of kids out here. They've been great throughout the day. I don't know, and it's probably a lot to do with the weather, but I don't know that I've ever been to a show where we really didn't have much of a rodeo in some classes, especially with the younger calves. This is one of the more organized shows and commerce shows that I've been to for a county fair level, and I think that's a true testament to the work that these kids have done at home. I don't get to go out and judge as many shows as I once did, but I get to do a few here and there when time allows. So really excited for the opportunity to drive down from Omaha and come do this show here today. Been a lot of fun to work with the kids, and I appreciate the opportunity, especially to work with Greg out here. And I think that that's something that, especially living in more of a populated area, the numbers may be small, and that just tells me that we need to go find more kids to take advantage of an opportunity. So if there's anyone standing ringside that wants to make a difference in a kid's life, there's a lot of kids, I'm sure, that live in Lincoln that just need one opportunity, one person to influence them and teach them the things that are going to really allow them to be successful in this world. And I think a lot of that can be done in the barn. So if you have that opportunity, if you have the means, I just encourage you to go find that kid in Lincoln that you can make a difference in their life by getting them involved in these type of projects. So, and take advantage of the wisdom of the people that you guys have here involved as volunteers in your county. So again, I'm not going to go through and talk the cattle again. We've talked them already in their divisions, but I think there's a lot of quality as we work our way through these breeds. We've got a couple of younger calves. We've got some heifers that have really put in the time, and they've done a really nice job of keeping these calves primarily in condition for the most part. Maybe there's some differences there that are going to decide the 1 through 5, but each of these females and each of these kids is very well deserving being out here in our grand drive. So let's give them all a big hand. I'll go select your top 5.
Congratulations to TJ Mueller, your Supreme Breeding Heifer with his exotic commercial. Reserve goes to Hadley Reimers out of the AOB category. Third goes to Kyler Plugi with his Red Angus. We'll go ahead and pull in the reserve Red Angus at this time. Congratulations to Emberlyn Johnson with your champion Main Anjou. Or excuse me, 4th place in our Supreme Drive. We'll go ahead and fill in with the reserve Main Anjou at this time. We're going to pass on filling in, and we're going to go for our 5th place in our Supreme Breeding Heifer Drive. And congratulations to Kyler Plugi with your 5th place Supreme Breeding Heifer with his Red Angus. Again, let's give a round of applause to all of our breeding heifer champions in our Supreme Breeding Drive. At this time, we're going to move on to our Lancaster Born and Raised breeding class. We'll go ahead and get everybody switched over for those ones. And I know Greg told me not to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. as he shakes his head. I don't know how many years Greg has been our superintendent here at the Lancaster County Beef Show, but he does a phenomenal job of supporting our 4-Hers and our youth inside and outside the ring and all parts of the fair during the year. So let's go ahead and give our beef superintendent, Greg Crawford, a huge round of applause. Also, one last reminder that livestock judging contest is tomorrow from noon to 2 here in the arena. The sign up is at the livestock office. You can have a team, which will be 4 4-Hers and an adult, or you can sign up as an individual. There are no reasons, and this is a great chance for you to try it for the first time or brush up on your livestock judging skills. Again, that is tomorrow from noon to 2. Be sure to sign up at the livestock office. We currently have Lancaster born and raised breeding in the ring. We'll go ahead and do a first and second call for club or chapter. First or second call for club or chapter.
Well, there's not exactly a reason to go through and talk these females because every single one of them was out there in our grand drive here of the Breeding Heifer Show, which is a true testament to the work that's being done at home. And I know it takes a lot of effort when you're out there in the cold and you're trying to help get these calves born and keep them alive in the dead of winter. And then you're sweating at 105 degrees and 60% humidity to get them halter broke and get them cleaned up for these shows. So very impressive. I'm really proud of these kids and the efforts that they put in at home. And I know it takes a village. They're not doing it alone. So congratulations to all of these kids and their families for the effort that they put in at home. We'll go ahead and keep our champion and reserve heifers from our heifer show together for our born and bred. So let's give them all a big hand.
Congratulations to TJ Mueller, your champion Lancaster born and raised breeding, and Hadley Reimers, your reserve champion. We're going to round out our 2025 Lancaster County Beef Show with the club or chapter group, and so we'll go ahead and get animals exchanged and then enter the ring for that. As we wrap up the beef show, we do want to thank our judge again, Kinsey Freeman from Omaha, for making the trip down here to sort through our calves today. She's done a fantastic job, and we appreciate her great feedback and her help with making sure that this year's beef show was a success. Congratulations to Happy Go Lucky, your champion Clever Chapter. And that's a wrap for the 2025 Lancaster County Beef Show. Thank you to all of our 4-Hers, parents, and other supporters for helping us be a great showing of the beef and 4-Hers in our county.
Thank you for watching the live stream.